watching closely. Look closer. Never show anyone. They'll beg you and they'll flatter you for the secret, but as soon as you give it up, you'll be nothing to them. You understand? Nothing. The secret impresses no one. The trick you use it for is everything.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I am joined by my co-hosts,
Abraham
and Nick.
How y'all doing tonight?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about this movie, man, because we've never talked about. Well, yeah, we've never talked about it before, but I've also never watched it before. This is my first time.
Yeah, it was my first time too.
I'm very excited to talk about it. We met up yesterday, Abraham, and I was like, dude, I was so ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited to talk about it too.
A lot of my ideas have been stewing inside my head, and I'm really excited to get them out and to kind of break it down with you guys.
All right. Yeah. So what movie are we talking about today?
We are talking about the 2006 film The Prestige. It was directed by Christopher Nolan, and it was written by Christopher Nolan and his brother.
Yeah.
Which I didn't write. I literally wrote Nolan and... Do you have his name?
Johnathan.
Jonathan Nolan. And...
Yes.
Wow. I wanted to ask you at first, like, brief experience with the movie, what'd you think, and where it ranks in your Christopher Nolan films, the ones you've seen at least. Because
there's some I haven't seen yet.
It's of the ones I've seen, it's pretty difficult because I really, really enjoyed this one, but I also love so many of his other films too.
See, I got to think about Christopher Nolan films now.
The Dark Knight trilogy is up there, is in the top for me.
This doesn't top that?
No. Not for me.
Okay. Interstellar?
See, and that's the thing is, like, I need to rewatch a lot of his film. Like, a lot of his filmography I need to revisit because I haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like I would need to have a day of just going through all of his movies and being like, okay, I can rank these. Like,
they're more recent to you. Yeah, I definitely have recency bias where it's like, this one, since I've seen it, most recently, I'm like...
It's great.
It's pretty high up there.
Yeah, and then, I could have the same thing where, like, I could watch Interstellar next week and be like, dude, how are we not talking about this movie yet?
Yeah,
It's kind of the same thing. But I don't know. I really enjoyed this. From what I remember... From what I remember of really enjoying Interstellar and, like, Inception and Memento and all that. I mean, there's previous movies I have not seen yet. Like I believe he has one called Insomnia.
Yeah, I've heard such good things about that.
He also has one called like The Following or something like that, which I have not seen.
Yeah.
I still haven't even seen Tenet.
You own it.
Yeah, I own it, and that's the thing is like whenever I saw it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy it. I know I'm gonna like it because Christopher Nolan, and I just never watched it yet.
Yeah, that was the one I had bought the day it came out on DVD because it never came to theaters over here. It was during all that craziness.
Yeah.
The day it came out, I bought it and watched it, and I was like, what? What did I watch? You know what I mean? That would be an interesting movie to talk about because, man, that's a mind bender.
Yeah. So there's still some of his films that I have yet to see.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It would be interesting to like maybe come back for an episode or something and like rank all of his films or something.
Well, okay. So this movie specifically, what'd you think?
I really enjoyed this, and I think it was because it was fresh to me. But I loved the ride that I was on. Like this movie takes you for a ride. And I really loved the ride. Like the entire time, like I didn't think I would love a movie about magicians and like magic. Like, and so the whole time I'm watching it and I'm watching them do these tricks and stuff and everything, I'm like, it's like I'm an audience member in one of their shows, and I'm like amazed by these.
What's gonna happen
by the spectacle of it all. And then when I finish it, I realize, man, I got played. Like I was really an audience member. Like Christopher Nolan is the magician in this case, and I was wanting to be fooled the whole time, you know, and he had the wool over my eyes and then revealed it at the end. He had his own prestige
it's a
at the end.
big meta theme, right?
Yeah.
Where I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And I love that Christopher Nolan is able to walk this like very thin line.
Very thin.
Between meta and what's the other word? Like he walks this line between being meta and being like hyper realistic, I guess.
Like
or,
true to the film, kind of?
Yeah. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like he has a way of making film
like transcend the film itself, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like it's I don't know how to put it into words.
It's kind of like that whole thing where you're left wondering. It's you watch the movie for what it is and you enjoyed it, but it has a deeper effect on you personally, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like you can see him as a director, and you like at the very end you acknowledge his power over you in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And it's how he interweaves that together to not only have a really good story and have that giant, you know, out of movie experience,
yeah,
and not have it feel so cliched and like very obvious, right?
Exactly.
I could definitely see
like
that.
I felt the same way whenever I watched Interstellar for the first time. I walked out of the theater dumbfounded. Like I was just like, what did that all mean? Like, what was the significance of the bookcase and like the, you know, him knocking on that, and like I had all these questions. And I remember I went to In-N-Out with my family afterwards, and I remember I told my mom I wanted, you know, what I wanted, and we sat down, and I just sat there in silence just thinking about the film. I was just like, what could this mean? Like, and I was putting all these pieces together, and then when it finally clicked for me, I was like, I got it. I understand what we just watched. And my mom was like, well, good, because I didn't get it. I thought it was stupid and all that stuff. And I was like, no, listen, like that was so good. Like this and this happened because this and this was what this meant and all this stuff and everything. And, you know, once I had kind of put it to terms and, you know, explained my take on it, she was like, oh, I guess that is pretty good. Like I would like to rewatch it knowing that and all that stuff. And I remember like not shutting up about it. And being like, dude, like, man, that's so smart. Like the way he, you know, tied all this in together and all this stuff and everything. And I think I would have been the same way had I watched this when it come out.
Like in theater?
Just
to walk out and be like...
To walk out and I would have been telling everybody, like, dude, go see The Prestige. You got to go watch this movie, dude. Like, it's one of those where, like, it's got to get talked about after, you know?
A lot of his movies have that same characteristic. And they're just smart. They're very complex.
Yes.
And they make you think.
Yeah.
Which is...
which I enjoy.
I do too.
And I like that this movie made me do that. And it made me go back to the film and, like, it recontextualized a ton of quotes and certain things that happened in the film. And, you know, while I'm thinking about that stuff, I'm like, bro, so this had a whole nother meaning, like, behind it. And I just wasn't paying attention, you know? And meanwhile, the characters are sitting there rubbing it in my face.
They're literally
saying, watch carefully. Like, watch carefully.
Michael Caine's literally saying, you know...
Are you paying attention?
Yep.
Like, all this stuff. Like, they're literally screaming it in your face. And you're just like,
that's how
I'm ready to be fooled. Like, you know, it's wild.
That's
but
how
I'm ready
it
to talk.
was at the end, finally, when I realized half of the things, I was like... Well, this is a different meaning now. Well, this is different. This is a totally different what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to Isaiah before we started recording. I said, and he brought up some even different things that I didn't think of. I was like, holy crap. Wait, that's so true. And I don't want to get into detail about it because we haven't.
I know we need to. I feel like we should just dive right in.
Let's dive in. Let's give it a synopsis.
Spoiler warning,
all that stuff.
So
let's talk.
I'm gonna do a very basic synopsis, only because the main point of this movie is to be fooled. There's so many twists and turns that you really got to watch it to experience it all, right?
Yes.
So the main gist of this movie is we are following two musicians. We're following two magicians. Hugh Jackman plays Robert Angier.
Yes.
And Christian Bale's character is Alfred
Borden.
Alfred Borden. I'm just going to call him by the last names because that's what they do. But we're following these two people, and after an accident between the two, they start a lifelong rivalry to create the best illusion possible called the Transported Man. And to just outdo each other at every chance they get, and at everyone's expense. That's the main gist of the movie.
Yeah.
So it's playing on, I think, Amazon Prime, you said?
It is on Amazon Prime, yeah.
So it is streaming on Prime. That's where I watched it.
Definitely go and watch it before you listen.
I need to buy this film.
I
now.
just bought it.
Yeah,
I just bought it.
I
so-
need to go get a copy
Yes.
for myself.
Buy it, watch it, come back, listen to what we have to say, because I think
this is gonna be heavy in spoilers.
Yes, yes.
So
And
if you haven't seen it, rewatch it. Check it out if you haven't. We're gonna be getting some heavy spoilers here.
yeah, this one kind of begs to be talked about also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
of how complicated it is.
Exactly, and there's so much stuff that happens in the movie. Like you can't talk about it without talking about spoilers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's no
definitely.
way.
But yeah, I mean, let's get into it. You want to start us off with your favorite scene?
Yeah,
Nick?
yeah. Favorite scene, introduction, of course.
Yes.
I really so intro, the scene where it's kind of panning over the
Of the hats.
hats, and at first you're like,
What is that?
what
What
is
are all
that?
these hats?
I
What's the purpose?
I knowing the movie is about magic.
Mm-hmm.
One, I saw this scene and I was like, I think those are dead. I thought those were hats of dead people, but then I was
Oh.
like, wait, there's no. This is about magic. Why would there be dead people involved?
There's dead rabbits in the hat.
Just like the birds in the cage.
Bro, don't even start with that.
Yeah.
But that's what I thought. I was like, I was confused at first, but I loved it because I immediately was like, all right, something's happening with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed that because it's something that you have no idea. It's common, but it's so different that you question it.
Yeah.
And we get the promise that it's going to be answered later on, and it eventually does, which is why I love it.
Mhm.
But we get introduced to one of the main characters, Michael Caine's character. His name is John Cutter.
Yes.
And he's narrating over him doing a magic trick for this girl.
Yes.
And he's talking about what music I'm gonna do this the whole podcast. Magicians do and their kind of performance.
Yeah.
Right.
It says a trick is set up in 3 pots.
Yeah. The Michael Caine voice. But he's talking about the pledge, which is the beginning, the
Mhm.
turn, and then the prestige, the final
Yeah.
act of the magic trick.
Yeah.
And all the while he's doing. I love the way they do it too, because he's doing this very simple trick of
Mhm.
a bird in a cage,
Yeah.
and smacking
Making
the cage and it being
know,
gone
disappear and then reappear.
and reappear, right? But we're getting intercut with Borden, Christian Bale's character, like seeing this crazy thing go on, and then him going down, and we get to see him like, oh, is he part of the act? Because he says it. He takes off his all of his stuff, and we don't really know what's going on. But he goes down and he sees Angier's fate, pretty much
getting drowned.
getting drowned. And this is kind of the setup of the whole entire movie, the framing device of him
Mhm.
being set up and in prison for a crime that he did commit.
Yeah.
that we think of right
yeah.
now.
At the time, all the evidence is pointing to him committing that murder.
Yes, and I love it. I thought it was extremely efficient at getting us introduced to the whole main conceit of the film, which is magic.
Yeah.
And then seeing a very common trick and seeing like the end,
Yeah.
I thought was incredible.
Yeah. I also love the way that this movie is shot narratively. Like it does a lot of jumps in the timeline.
It does.
Yeah.
And I think that's to its benefit because it makes us piece together the movie.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you guys, but for me, it wasn't hard to follow
No, and
because of it.
you guys know that it's sometimes hard for me to follow movies, and this
Mhm.
one I thought was actually fairly easy. Like I understood what was happening.
Yeah.
So I think, like as I said, it helps for this movie. It helps to piece it together, and
Mhm.
that's one thing that I did like as well.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
But I love the intro. I love Michael Caine explaining the 3 parts, and while he's explaining it, he's also performing the trick for
Mhm.
the little girl, and I love he says something about like it's not enough to just make something disappear. You have to make something reappear again in order for it to be extraordinary.
Yeah, it's like
And
you
like
can't applaud or something like that.
yeah, and like he says like that's when we get to what's called the prestige, and he makes the bird reappear. And while he's talking about the bird reappearing, we see like it cuts to Angier just drowning like in that cage trying to break out. And like at the time in that scene we just see, Borden
Just
staring at
Staring
him,
at
letting him drown.
Mhm.
And we're kind of like,
Dude, are
dang,
you
like,
not gonna help him?
yeah, he's just letting him drown. Like when I had first went through that whole scene, I was like, dang, that's cold.
Yeah, he had
You
done
know,
it
like,
on purpose.
Like he had set that up. you
Yeah,
know?
and that's when I immediately thought, I was like, all right, there was some obviously some bad blood with them.
Yeah.
And they have like, he's just like, all right, you did something dirty to me. This is your
Yeah.
final cause.
Mhm.
Which is smart, and I love the way that they show that in the beginning, because then they work it backwards and they show
Yeah.
us, and like they show us that these guys were once partners, and that they worked together at one point, and then we go down the rest of the movie where we see where the feud begins and how they start to one up one another and all that
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah. So that introduction, I think, was just pretty much perfect to get
Yeah.
to get introduced. And again, the framing device, I thought you were going to have a hard time with, only because it's it could be very difficult to follow, where we're seeing Borden in prison. He is reading a journal about Angier. He's reading Angier's journal, and
Yeah.
in that journal, Angier is writing about
Him.
what he read in Borden's journal.
Yes.
So we're getting all of these like little notes and it like we get to dive. It's like 3 layers deep. It's kind of like Inception,
Yeah.
where we're diving deep into these people's psyche,
Mhm.
which I thought would be a little bit hard to follow, but I think they did a perfect job
Yeah.
No,
I
I think they killed it.
at
Yeah.
showing it.
Yeah, and like I said, like I think the way that they portray the narrative of this film through the notebooks and through all the jumps in the timeline and all that stuff, I think it's done really, really masterfully.
Mhm.
Like it's done to the point where, like, I don't like there's no handheld like throughout the entirety of this
No
film,
way.
and I don't think that there needs to be.
No.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed the way that they decided to bring us into both of these guys' thoughts,
Mhm.
and through the use of their notebooks, and then through the use of the flashbacks and all that stuff. And it's
Yeah.
just really, really smart direction and writing.
Hmm.
All right. Yeah. Agree.
Yeah, my next favorite scene is when Julia and Borden decide to do the Langford double.
Is this that's the
So in a
The trick
previous
that does it.
yeah, so in a previous scene we've watched Julia, who is Angier's wife, she does this trick where she gets tied up and then dropped into the cage of water that Angier drowns in the beginning of the film.
Mhm.
So right there we know that there is some significance to that cage. But she gets dropped in. The first time we see it, she miraculously unties herself and gets out. And once she's out of the cage, the curtain comes up, and she's out of it miraculously, and everyone stands up, it's like, whoa, cheering. And they have an argument afterwards, saying like, I think we should do the Langford double. This is it's a knot that is much sturdier, to hang on whenever she gets picked up, and
So she won't fall and break her
so
leg.
she won't fall. And then Cutter says like, like
It's
the
not a
Langford
water
double
knot.
is, it's not it's not easy to tie, untie in water, and it's not safe. It's not safe to do. Meanwhile,
I hate it.
meanwhile, Julia and Borden think that
The way that they look at each other.
the way that they look at each other, they know like I think that you could do it,
Mhm.
and I think it's something that we should try.
Mhm.
And so my favorite scene is whenever they try it. And we don't understand what's going to happen. We think we're going to see the trick again, but we get this look between Borden and Julia like okay, like this is the time.
I hate it.
And so at first we watch Borden mess up a knot, and then he goes back through it and ties another knot. And while they're doing it, Angier is kind of looking at them and stuff, and trick goes through normally. It gets picked up, put in the water, and
Curtains come down.
Yeah, Cutter starts the stopwatch. Curtains come down, and she's supposed to have come out in within like 30 seconds or something like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And once the 30 seconds are up and the curtains have not been pulled up, and he doesn't hear anyone getting out, he starts to
Immediately-
walk out there. Starts to walk out there with an axe and
Mhm.
starts hitting the thing, and we just see Julia just trapped in this water, and is just like trying to bang on it, trying to get out and everything, and everyone is just hacking at it, trying to get her out, and it's a heartbreaking scene.
It is.
But it's a scene that brings so much context to the film,
Mhm.
and it is ultimately necessary for the film.
Yeah.
But that entire time, the whole my heart was pumping. I was just like, dude, like she's drowning in front of a live audience. Like, that's so terrifying. And so scary. Like, I mean, yeah, I just said that essentially, but like, it's terrifying for the audience to see, but it's also terrifying because your husband is literally watching you die.
That's something we didn't really bring up. They're together.
Yeah.
So to see her kind of, dying,
Yeah.
I can't imagine how he feel. I mean, I actually can't imagine because it shows us,
Yeah.
when they finally break it, she comes out and her body's just limp.
Yeah.
And he goes up to her and he's
goes
like,
and he's just, Julia,
no,
like,
no. And he's, and one of the scenes I really enjoyed, just because it showed a lot about his character, Angier, and we were talking about this, he kind of like holds his head under the water, and it almost seems like he's trying to like mimic
feel
her.
it, like feel
Do you
her
think
pain.
it's because he's trying to feel her pain, or you think he's trying to prepare himself to do that trick?
I thought
No, it's more.
I thought it wasn't. I thought it was more emotional.
It definitely.
than that.
I think
Like,
it definitely is.
See, me watching it, I thought he was trying to prepare himself for that trick.
No,
And I didn't think
No.
about the emotional part, but bringing it up, it
'Cause
does make sense.
I thought he was trying to like.
Because he does cry at the end of
He
that
does.
scene.
Yeah,
It's
I thought he was trying to feel her pain.
I think so. Because that's not really how you wouldn't kill yourself like that. I don't think it's even possible.
I don't think it's possible.
He was trying to mimic that, and I think that's part of his his
His way of like coping.
his way of coping, or not even coping, but it's just like that's just where he's at.
Yeah.
He's trying to, and I think the fact that he knows how he felt and he falls onto the floor and just breaks down.
Yeah.
He knew the amount of pain and like scaredness he was in.
Yeah.
I think tells us a lot about his character in that moment.
Yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah. My next favorite scene was actually a little bit before yours. And I want to say it's before Borden got involved with the big show. When he's helping at this little show, it's when the kid calls out the magician for killing the bird.
Oh yes, yeah, okay.
He says he killed him.
Yeah. No.
Where's his brother?
Yeah.
No, and I like it because it shows how a magic trick works. And I like it because you finally get the logistics of it. You get to see what happens and this, but then you get to see the side of like Borden that you don't see the whole movie, just in this movie, or this part. Excuse me. And he goes, see, like he's fine. And then that's when the little boy goes,
Little boy's
where's his
keen.
brother? Where's his brother? And
He says your boy is sharp.
yes, and then my favorite part is when it leads him taking that bird back, and you see all these birds, and you see him
Yeah.
take out the dead bird from the cage.
That was a bro moment for me.
It's a
man.
big bro moment for me too, but I also I liked it because you finally get to see a little bit of the logistics of magic.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you, Abraham.
Because you don't see that, and I was like, wait, and obviously we've probably seen this kind of magic trick on TV or something,
Yeah.
and we never know what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had never known that the bird just dies.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
Just gets crushed. Gets crushed to death.
Yeah, they say you got to get your hands dirty to accomplish the impossible.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I really enjoyed. But then it just leads in to another like big scene. But it's actually a bro moments for me.
Okay.
So that was my next favorite scene, was seeing the little boy calling him out, but then seeing the logistics of a magic trick.
Okay. My next one I wanted to talk about is the bullet trick.
Yeah, that's mine as well.
Is that your next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that mine might be before.
No, well, is it watching it live
Yes.
for the first time?
Well,
Watching
mine's
it
before.
live.
Oh, dude, this scene, man.
Well, okay. Rewind it all the way back. I enjoy. Tell me if you enjoyed kind of like the funeral scene.
I put that
I thought
as a favorite scene because
Is that your favorite scene?
yeah, well,
because-
let's bring that up because that happens previous.
I
So
love
the
this
funeral
scene.
scene. We're at the scene for Julia.
This is
Uh,
heart-wrenching.
Yes, and I think I put it because I almost teared up seeing Hugh Jackman act like that.
Mm-hmm.
We get the scene and the guy, I forget his name. I'm blanking on the main guy's name.
John Cutter.
Yes, is that
Well,
his name?
it's Michael Caine. It's John Cutter. He's telling that story
He's
of.
telling the story about that.
I
and-
love how they use it
And
twice.
he straight up goes and says, "What do you want, Borden? Like, what are you doing here?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm just here to pay my respects. I'm so sorry for your loss." And then Angler looks up and he just death stares him. He just says, "What tie did you? What knot did you tie?" and you get I don't know, which
No,
Yeah.
I think it's meant to. It definitely is meant to.
It's meant to
makes
piss you
me
off.
so mad.
It's meant to.
because I'm like, how do you not know what not you did? That killed
Yeah.
someone.
That's the essential question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Because once the end comes,
That's what
it makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
It makes so much more sense.
Exactly.
But I love this because you see the emotion behind Angler. You see the emotion behind John Cutter. And I'm like, okay, what is happening? Like, how does he not know? Is he traumatized?
Mm.
Is he just trying to push beyond this that, like, he doesn't? And eventually we get this look on Hugh Jackman's face. It's just literally like a still of him.
Yeah, he's
and his
tearing up,
tear-
and he just keeps saying,
Yeah.
"You don't know?
Yes.
How do you not know?"
How could you not know?
Yeah,
And then eventually
His voice is booming, dude.
yeah,
And then
Yeah.
we get this shot of Julia in that casket, and it's
So
open.
just-
And England right there, and I was like, that just happened.
hmm
Like, why would you show up? Was my thought as well.
yeah. I can understand wanting to show up to show respect, but
I would have
but
done
I-
it at a different time.
I can also understand where Angier is coming from in that his wife was killed,
Yeah,
you know, because of an accident, and to have somebody come up and be like, "I don't know how she died,"
Yeah.
you know, like. That's such a slap in the face, you know.
Yeah.
Like you want answers, and I can understand where Angier is coming from.
Well, Angier definitely fully believes that Borden killed her.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Because they had talked about the knot beforehand. You know, he had known. That's why he's asking him that question. And I
Mhm.
feel like the rejection to it, the non-answer, is what pisses him off and gets him even
Mhm.
more. And that's, I think, what drives him to do the stuff that he does later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I agree with you.
Well, let's get into the bullet catch.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about it live. Did you want to talk about it?
I want to talk about live as well.
Okay, so it's so great.
Well, let's preface it real quick with how he explains it. So he explains the bullet trick and like how, you know, to Sarah.
Yeah.
Borden is explaining the trick to Sarah, who is his significant other, and he's saying that, you know, if you put a certain, you know, thing or do something with the gun, you're able to like catch the bullet.
Well,
per
yeah,
se.
we're in the late 1980s, right?
Yeah.
So
So you have to pack it. You got to
Yeah.
put gunpowder and all this.
you put the
stuff.
gunpowder, you put the
wad.
the the wad and then the bullet, but
Yeah.
the little thing that he stuffs it down with
Yeah.
collects
Gets
the bullet.
Yeah.
So it's like, is
Yeah.
he gonna get shot? But
but it's essentially shooting a blank.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, you know, he, you know, acts like he has it, but he's got the bullet in his hand.
Yeah.
You know,
And he explains to Sarah that it's pretty dangerous because, you know,
somebody can slip.
someone can slip
Someone-
a bullet in there.
yeah, someone
And-
can really do damage.
I love how it goes back to that argument scene because he even uses it to tell Sarah, like, again, John Cutter, right? Is that his name? The main guy?
Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine.
Wait,
What's
the
his
old
name?
guy?
Yes. What's his name in the movie?
His name is John Cutter.
His
Okay.
name's Cutter.
Yeah.
You
Cutter.
can just call him Cutter.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Cutter even says they can even slip in a button, and then when he's explaining it to Sarah, he's like, "Oh, and this and this," and I don't know why that's a good callback. I just wanted to hit on that
No,
because he says he prefaces on a button, and I was like,
definitely.
Gonna mean something.
Seriously.
Gonna mean something.
So it ends up coming to the scene where Borden is doing a live show. He's
Well, look, I want to preface too
Oh,
the
yeah.
shot of
Angier.
freaking Angier doing his sleight of hand, like
hiding it.
hiding the bullet.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple shots where he has a bullet in his hand.
Yes.
He's going
over it and it disappears.
and it disappears, and then there's like he puts it back and it
See,
goes
and
back
And how
does all this
I don't know
stuff.
how he did it.
it scenes like that where you can think of it as nothing.
Yeah.
Of just this guy practicing, or maybe
Yeah.
it was Borden practicing. Like you don't really know. It's only until we get to see.
Yeah, that we realize, you know, once, you know, it comes for the bullet trick to happen, and Borden asks for a
calls.
volunteer,
Oh man.
and of course Angier in disguise pulls up, and that's when I watched him pull up, and you see him do this, you see him do something with
Immediately
the gun.
you link it. You're like,
You immediately are like, there's
No.
a bullet in there now.
So I was watching it with my brother Sal, and you can hear the clink of something going in there.
Yeah,
And I said, "Bro, did you just see that?" And he goes, "What?" And I rewind it for him, and I said, "Listen to it. You can hear something. He put something in."
yeah,
And then that's when we get to see it's Angier.
yeah, and you see a close up on his face, and he looks rough.
he looks rough.
And he's like teary eyed, and he's pointing the gun like right at Borden. He says, "What knot did you tie?"
Dude, that's what I lost.
Dude, and oh man, as soon as that happened, I was like, oh,
Yep.
oh, dude, like
He's gonna kill.
he's
him.
gonna kill him. He's gonna shoot him. Like
He really was.
like what is about to happen right now? This is insane. And I'm gripping the edge of my seat. I'm like, what's about to happen right now, dude? And like as he's he's doing that, he's like, I told you, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. And that eventually, I forget exactly what happens for him to shoot his fingers.
Well, so it comes. So he's gonna do it. He closes his eyes and he goes, "Yeah." Like he fully accepts that he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And another character we haven't talked about, his name is Fallon, which is I do not remember the pronunciation of the name, but it's basically what John Cutter is. He's the builder of the mechanic. He's the
Yeah, I
what are
forgot.
they-
There's
like
a certain word.
Insignor or something like that. It's something
Insignia or something like that. I
something like
I'll
that.
look it up.
So Fallon is that, just like John Cutter is to Angier. And he is about to shoot, and you see Fallon come up and knock the gun away.
Okay.
That's when we get to see him still shoot him,
Yeah.
but not.
it comes down and hits Borden in the two bottom fingers.
Yeah.
And blows him off.
Dude,
What- dude,
obliterates them.
Dude, I didn't think it would get into that much detail. So whenever I saw it get blown off, I was like, "Oh, dude!" Dude, straight up blown him off.
Yeah.
Dude, like that was insane. Yeah, and then immediately you see
He's like, oh.
Borden just going, just holding his fingers, and then he just slips out. I
Yep.
was like, he just blew his fingers off, dude.
Yeah,
Like that's insane.
It shows the amount that he's willing to go to get back at him, to get revenge, to get.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He's trying to ruin his career.
yeah.
Everything he's trying to do just because he's grieving over his wife,
Yeah.
which I think is a very sympathetic reason.
Mhm.
Not necessarily making it good, like true, like okay to do, but
Yeah.
you could definitely understand his motive.
Yeah.
Right.
You can empathize with him.
You definitely
and
can.
want to know, if you're desperate, you want an answer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love that scene. I want to talk about. I'm looking at this now and I don't even remember.
What'd you
Oh
look at?
no! I do know. So it's Angier's trick. Whenever they're talking about the dove disappearance trick.
Oh, dude,
Oh,
this
and
is
they're
a
going-
bro moment.
and they're
they have
going
a whole
through, and they
new-
have the whole rig
I
where
enjoyed this scene.
they're, and I love the way that they set it up with like showing us how the trick will actually work first.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're watching
Because they do.
you're watching Cutter and Angier go through this mechanism that's going to like put the dove in the cage, and then whenever they do it a certain way or move a certain way, the cage will essentially like rip apart over the dove and go in like his wrists
Mm-hmm.
essentially, and then he'll be able to like free the dove essentially without killing it.
Yeah.
And so like they're like, okay, this is obviously more ethical, and we don't have to go through a ton of doves
Yeah,
like
seriously.
all the
Well,
time.
because he straight up says, like,
I don't want to kill more
I
birds.
don't want to hurt any more animals.
Yeah,
And I was like, thinking about it, I was like, bro, they killed a lot of birds.
yeah,
Oh, for sure.
And so finally someone spoke up. But going back to you, I was like, yeah, finally they're not going to kill any birds.
yeah. But my favorite scene is whenever we get to him performing it live
Yeah.
for the first time.
I can't believe that's your favorite scene.
Is
Dude.
it? Is it the first time?
Makes me no, yeah, I feel like it is.
I feel like it is because, he comes up, he asks for volunteers, and he says, I need you guys to place your hands on like each side of the cage, and of course, Borden comes
see-
up in disguise.
That's the reason I don't like the idea of, because I think they do a really good job at kind of skipping time and having us fill in the gaps, and I think that we get like very subtle quotes of them saying like, "Oh, he's done this." Like, I've been there. The show has been filled 16 times,
Okay.
and we kind of get this idea of
Like it's happened before.
it's happened before.
But now he's been able to study the trick, so he knows
so
like what he can do.
and not even that, like, because if it's his first time, it's a little coincidental that he gets chosen, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I would like to say their disguises aren't that great. Like,
No.
I see it, I'm like, oh, dude, that's just Christian Bale with a beard.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit more believable if you are under the idea that it's happened a bunch of times and he's tried to volunteer, just not gotten chosen.
Yeah.
And it was today that he got
That he
chosen.
got chosen.
That makes sense.
Okay, I like that. So I love whenever he calls the volunteers, and this lady gets pulled up, and then Borden gets pulled up, in a costume,
Mm-hmm.
and he essentially, tells the two to put your hands on the cage on each side, and that he's gonna make the cage disappear and free the dove. And dude, he's like, okay, ma'am, like place your hands on the sides of the cage, and then you place your hands on top. And I love the use of cinematography here because it's such a like. They don't even have to say anything. They just show us, and that's what I love. I want to be shown. I don't want to be told. And so whenever we see those two fingers just on top of the cage, you're like, that's him, dude. That's Borden. He's about to sabotage this trick. He's about to get back at him.
Yep.
And then you see his face, in a disguise, and he rips this cage apart. And, in doing so, kills the dove and breaks this lady's hands.
It looks like the machine kind of impaled her fingers.
I think that's what it was. I think it went through a couple fingers.
It impaled like some of her fingers, like messed with her hands, and then killed the dove in the process.
Yeah.
And then he just walks off stage real quick. I was like, dude, like this is.
I was so mad.
They're both out for blood. Like they're wanting to end each other's careers.
Definitely.
And it was insane. I really loved the shot of him putting his hand on the cage, and you just see those two missing fingers.
That's all we needed.
And it was right then. I was like, he's about to dude, he's about to mess him up, dude.
Yeah.
Like I loved it.
And it only makes sense too because this is his revenge from Angier getting his revenge, and it's like
fingers for fingers, dude.
A never-ending snowball.
Yeah.
Of them just trying to destroy each other, man.
Yeah. Which I loved it.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. Do you?
No, so we actually hit all my favorite scenes.
Okay.
The rest of the movie just became bro moment after bro moment after bro moment for me.
Okay, I kind of wanted to, and I think it's a really big sticking point. I think for a lot of people in this movie, it's the transporting man trick. I really like the first time we get introduced to Borden's transporting man. Mm-hmm. Where he's on stage and he's not really a showman. You could definitely tell that he's up there kind of just walking around, not really saying anything at all. And he has a ball. He throws it to a person and then he throws it back. This red ball, it's significant. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and he bounces it, goes out the door, immediately comes out the other door, and it's like magic. It's like he had teleported.
Yeah.
Right? And we're like, what's happening here? And Angier, even after he'd seen that, he goes,
it's remarkable. I don't understand how he does it.
It's the greatest magic trick of all time.
Yeah.
And it's another one of those scenes where it kind of slaps you in the face a little bit because Cutter, the entire time, he's
he's using
it's a double.
He's using a double.
Yeah, it's a double.
It's a double.
and because of his obsession, because of his mismatch of judgment, he's like, no.
It's got to be more than that.
It's a complex illusion. There's got to be more to it. It can't just be a double. Let's figure out. And now that becomes his new drive of, well, he's got one of the best magic tricks I've ever seen. How can I do it? And how can I do it better?
Yeah.
And that's his new drive in life, or in his career, mm-hmm. which I enjoyed.
Yeah, I have a favorite scene before that.
Okay.
And it's a small one.
Okay.
But it's it's a shot of when we see Borden in prison and he's chained to a workbench.
Dude,
I loved him messing with the guard.
Yeah.
And acting like he's doing a trick with the ball or something like that. And while we're watching it, it looks like he fumbles the trick.
Fake
messes it up, but he does it on purpose. And the guard gives him crap for it. And it's like, oh, you're losing your touch, blah blah blah. And all
how'd you get so famous? Yeah.
Yeah, and then he walks away, and all of a sudden, Borden's not chained to the table anymore, and the guard is. And he starts walking away, and Borden, as he's walking away, the guard is like, "Hey, what are you doing? Come back here!" And all of a sudden, his leg is chained to the table, and all the inmates just start going, "Nah!" just laughing at him and all this stuff, and then all these guards just rush up and start tackling him and chaining him, and they're hauling him away. But my next one after that is the new transported man, or what does Angier call it after?
Well, he calls it the new.
Okay.
He calls it the new, and this is not necessarily introducing the machine. It's introducing the idea of a double, right? And I wanted to ask you,
convenient to find a guy that looks exactly like him.
I wanted to ask you
bigger
guys,
teeth.
Were you convinced of Root? His name is Root.
Yeah.
Which he is. I
forget Root.
Well, I think it's literally Hugh Jackman plays Root.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prosthetics or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you like Root? How'd you feel about him?
I hate him.
You didn't like him?
I mean, it works. It works out, and it was a bro moment because he almost messes up the act.
Yeah, because he's almost always too drunk.
Almost too drunk, and then he even kisses
Olivia.
And I was like, wait, no, like, no, you're not supposed to do that. Like, and he obviously does it. I feel like because he likes the attention.
Yeah, he does. And we preface this by he used to be an actor.
Yes.
So he wants that spot in the limelight
Yes.
again. And his, 15 seconds of fame every night is on that stage as a double. So
Yeah.
I want to say, I love that shot with the new transported man whenever they show us the whole spectacle of it all, of him throwing the hat.
Yeah.
And it's that wide shot of him opening the door and then coming out the other side.
I think it's really cool.
Him catching the hat.
Yeah, I love it. I love the whole spectacle of it all. And then I also love when we see
when
we see Angier drop, he doesn't even get to take the glory.
I know.
Like
that's gotta kill him.
It's got to. And he is under the stage while everyone is
he's just
marveling and amazed, and he is just like, doing this under the stage,
like accepting the applause.
Yeah, like, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And it starts to eat at him too, because he's like, well, what if you do, the beginning, and then I come out in the end, so that way I can be on the stage. And Rude is like, it's not going to work that way or something.
Cutter
Cutter's
says,
the one. He's like, he can't do it.
Yeah, he says like the introduction to the scene is the trick is everything. You got to have them in their suspense.
Yeah.
And he would just fumble over his words the whole time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I wanted to bring up an idea that I had heard on, I think it was another podcast. The guys were talking about it being kind of like a reflection of, and this is like way outside the movie meta of like, of him being there as like accepting applause and not getting the recognition for it. Mm-hmm. And that kind of being like Christopher Nolan, kind of being like, that's like a reflection of him, making this incredible movie, but never getting like the
credit for it.
I know we do now, but like at the time you're just like, oh, Hugh Jackman killed it.
Yeah. And at the time too, like critics were not too fond of this movie.
Really?
Like
what else came during this year?
Like I think still now this is like Christopher Nolan's second lowest movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
Yeah. You want to know what's first?
First.
Interstellar.
Lowest?
Interstellar is a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, we definitely have to revisit that. It doesn't seem right though.
That doesn't.
What's his
it
first?
Doesn't at all. And then I'm saying like his lowest rated movies on Rotten Tomatoes. Interstellar is his number one lowest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Prestige being next.
The Prestige is next at 76.
I wonder what his first is.
That's what I'm looking up right now.
What do you mean his first?
Like what his highest rated movie
what his highest is?
On Rotten.
I would have to think maybe.
What do you think?
I would probably say like Memento or The Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, I would agree with The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Only because it's iconic.
Yeah.
At this moment.
So there's 11 movies on there. So it goes from the bottom. From the bottom, it's Tenet actually now.
Ooh, I agree.
69%. Interstellar 72. The Prestige 76.
That's crazy.
Following for 81. Batman Begins 84. Inception 87. The Dark Knight Rises 87. Insomnia 92.
That's
Dunkirk 92.
Dunkirk. I forgot about Dunkirk.
Memento 93, and number 1 is 94% with The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight. Okay. And that's just because the acting.
Which is kind of heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, but it's kind of wild because like at the time critics weren't too fond of this, but the audience loved it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit of that stolen valor a little bit for Christopher Nolan because like you want the audience to love it, right? Like that's something that you really do strive for, and you shouldn't care about critics loving it, but I would assume that it would eat at you a little bit if people who are going at it with a critical mind and are gonna base their opinions off of critics. It's gonna steer people away from the film. So I do understand that thought process and kind of like Christopher Nolan not really being able to accept the glory for the film,
or like him being in the background, right?
Yeah, and orchestrating
all of it, but not getting that recognition,
that satisfaction. Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that new transported man scene was awesome. But it ends up not working, and it's one of my next favorite scenes when, you know, and I didn't really understand what was happening the first time I had watched this, but the second time I thought it was perfect. Where they're both in the bar, we see Borden and we see Root, but he's acting like Angier.
Yeah.
So and
another bro moment for me.
and
I was so mad.
Borden already knows. He already can see through this act, no problem. And but he still sits there and he goes, "Oh, Angier," and he goes, "Oh, yeah." Like he treats him like Angier, even though he knows he's not.
Yeah.
And he gives him this idea of he's like, "Oh, I've been in the same situation until my person realized he had all the power in it."
Yeah.
And he's giving him that idea.
He's giving him this idea that like you are worth more than what Angier is letting you be.
And that's when he gets the tenacity to you know, he misses the hat and he walks out and he goes,
Yeah.
dude, the way he
Oh,
the
man.
way he comes out.
He's so
Yeah.
quirky.
Oh, it's
I one of our buddies does this dumb pose that we do, and immediately that's what I thought of.
when he comes out like that.
Yeah.
Yes, when he
Yeah.
goes, that's the pose that I thought of. I was like, I wanted to text you guys, but I was like, I'm gonna bring it up.
Yeah. No, it's because he has all the power in that moment.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite scenes is when you know, Borden uses that to his advantage and you know, he takes out the soft padding that Angier uses to fall onto.
Yeah, and breaks his
Breaks his leg.
breaks his leg, and that was something too. Whenever I'd seen that, I immediately went, "Oh man!" But afterwards, I was like, "That's where he got the limp. That's why he's always walking with the cane now."
Yeah, and
like
it makes sense when you go at the beginning of the movie when
Yeah.
he reaches Colorado.
and I love that Christopher Nolan takes time to iron out those details because previous to that, I have no questions as to why he's walking with the cane
Yeah,
and all that stuff, and I'm just like, oh, it's just part of his character, I guess.
yeah.
But there's no actual reason for it now.
I feel like he shows us the results before he gives us the answers.
Yeah, and then makes us piece it together, which feels so rewarding.
Which this movie makes it feel so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's another point of commonality between these two characters. One of them had physical damage, and then now Angier has physical damage.
Yeah.
And he's painstakingly going between the two and showing just how similar situations they're in, right? But I like where Angier or Root is tied up, and instead of Root coming out of the door, it's Borden in his get up, his nice little tuxedo and all
Yeah.
that stuff, and he goes, and he puts on the hat, and everyone laughs, and he goes, you know, come to my place. It's got plenty of spots
Yeah, and it's across the street.
across the street, and he runs out, and we just see, I forget what the sign says.
I forget too.
I
But-
forget what it says, but then you see
Root
You see
is
him
just
hanging.
Yeah, Root's up there hanging.
Yeah.
I thought was incredibly effective.
Yeah.
And it's another point of like, oh, okay, this is how he's getting back at him, getting back at him, at him, getting back. You know, it's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
stepping stone of this.
Yeah. My last favorite scene is the ending. So I don't know if you've got anything before that.
No, I just kind of wanted to bring up the teleporter device and kind of condense down the whole Going to America plotline. How did you guys feel about that whole thing? Did you buy into it? Did you
I
think
did.
it was?
I
you
was
did?
a little confused
did.
why, because this is a jump that I didn't understand, because Borden writes Tesla,
Yes.
and then he comes up to Cutter and says like, I need to go back to Colorado, and I was a little confused because he was already in prison. You get what I'm saying? When he writes, he wrote Tesla. Never mind.
He wrote Tesla.
He
way
wrote Tesla
before.
when he buried the guy.
when he
Fallon.
when he buried Fallon.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry, I was thinking of two different scenes. That's my fault.
Yeah, I did buy into the Going to America timeline.
Meeting Nikola Tesla. and-
Yeah, and I
Also,
loved that it was David Bowie.
I was about to bring it up. Can we just talk about how it's David Bowie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I at this point, whenever we get
And that other guy
introduced,
too. I'm
Andy
forgetting.
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis.
He plays
Perfect.
Gollum.
Perfect.
Yeah,
He plays what?
he plays Gollum.
No, really?
Yeah, in the Lord of the Rings.
He also plays. Dude,
He's
I'm
also
blanking.
Caesar in Planet of the Apes.
He's also Alfred in the new Batman.
Yes.
You said Andy Serkis?
Andy
Yes.
Serkis. Yeah.
Yeah.
His name is Ali in this movie.
Ali,
Yeah.
I'm clicking
But,
on IMDb.
But I really bought into the whole Going to America timeline because it shows Angier's determination to try to figure out what this trick is. And like even whenever he gets to talk to Tesla in later scenes, like he's like, well, what you want is going to cost a lot of money. And like Angier's like, price is no object. Like I will give you whatever money you need as long as you can build this machine, and I could do that trick better than Borden. Like he is just obsessed, and he will do anything at any cost to do what Borden does better. And I gotta say too, David Bowie kind of kills it.
He kind of kills it.
Like he kind of kills it as Tesla.
He does. Yeah.
I really enjoyed seeing him on screen, and him, you know, portraying Nikola Tesla, and just his kind of Nikola Tesla's like grandeur, but also how do you want to say it, like I don't know, another word for like unique would be like
a synonym for unique.
like Nikola Tesla was a very enigmatic person.
Definitely.
And
That's
like
a big word. I don't know that word.
Like he was very animated, and like had a lot of there was a lot of strange things about Nikola Tesla that like a lot of people just didn't really understand, but that was who he was as a person.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know, David Bowie had that about him, and so it worked for me, in my opinion. But
I agree, and I really like his portrayal of like this wise man. He's really, I mean, he's very intelligent, working with unknowns at the time. Basically, electricity wasn't a commonplace.
Yeah.
You know, he even says, I built the city and it runs on electricity, and they're all grateful for that. But when we do our tests, it has to be at night because I don't want to scare people, like all this kind of stuff. And, you know, it gets to the point where they're both sitting down and he goes, you know, you're asking for this machine, but have you considered the price? And he goes, oh, yeah, money's no object. And he goes, I know that, but have you considered the price?
Yeah.
Because he himself knows. And he goes, you know, I can see it in your face that you have an obsession, and your obsessions are running your life, and it's just not going to be good. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
And I love his retort too.
Yeah, he's like, well, you have an obsession as well, essentially. And like, I know you're the type of person that won't sleep until that obsession is conquered.
And he says, you have an obsession, so you know that nothing you say or do will let me or will convince me to leave. And I love what he says too, of like, you know, I have an obsession. He goes, you're right, I do have an obsession, and they run my life.
Yeah.
And eventually they'll destroy me.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit of foreshadowing to what truly happens to Angier.
Yeah, Angier, and then even also Tesla, like with his whole like factory thing burning down.
Exactly.
Like he essentially all of his work ends up getting destroyed because of both of their obsessions. Yeah.
I enjoyed that, and then one of the biggest kind of bro moments I had was when, you know, it's coming to the very end of the thing, and he comes in, and they're not understanding how this machine is working. They're just thinking it's not working at this moment, and they go in and they get Ali's cat.
He's like, how many times are you gonna bring me in here just so you can zap my hat full of electricity and then tell me, oh, we don't know what's wrong, you know?
Yeah. So they zap the cat.
Yeah.
And the
cat's all like it gets zapped.
The face that it's made.
Yeah, get zapped, dude. Yeah.
It's funny. And we think, oh, it's just broken. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
He goes outside. He hears two cats growling at each other. And here's where we get the connection to the very...
between the beginning of the movie.
Where we get to see all of his hats.
Yeah.
We get to see all of the top hats.
Yeah. And that's when it clicked for me. I was like, it's literally a cloning device.
It's extremely satisfying.
They're making a cloning machine.
Yeah,
like
it's not a teleporter, it's a duplicator.
Yeah.
Which
yeah, when I recognized that, this is how big-brained Alexa is.
Does she know?
No. Well, she had the idea of a double, but so whenever we saw the double, she immediately thought, "Oh, what if in the beginning the guy that's the double is the person that's getting drowned in the beginning?" And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty smart. That's pretty big brain."
She's big brain.
Yeah, that's big brain.
That's pretty big brain.
That's big brain in all caps and bold letters.
Yeah,
seriously.
and I was like, I don't know. Like, we'll have to find out. And you know, it's sort of true what she ended up thinking, but not to the fullest extent. Right? She was on the right track.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like as soon as it had clicked for me that this was like a duplicator, I was like, dude, like he can do the trick. He can do the trick. Then he's literally going to make a clone of himself and go out and put this whole, build this whole rig and show the people like I can straight up do the trick better. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
I want to say too, whenever we get to see Angier do his version of the transported man, and he comes out on that on the balcony. It reminded me of when I went and saw 21 Pilots in Fresno, because they did that.
How did they do that?
So whenever the 21 Pilots came out,
He just goes and goes.
no, so when they came out in the Save Mart Center, there's this huge curtain. It drops and they start playing some songs. I think they break out with Heavy Dirty Soul. Yeah, so they break out. They're doing that song, and there's a part in the song where in their live performance, Tyler like falls down, and when he falls, the whole time you're watching him like he's on the ground, and then it gets into a point where like eventually everything goes dark, and we see Tyler get back up, or what we think is Tyler, and then towards the end of the song, we see these spotlights go like up
and
to
move.
the top, and he literally did the same thing that Angier did. He's up at the top of the balcony, and he takes off his mask, and you see Tyler, like who we thought was standing on stage, all the way up here.
That's crazy.
And so, like, I remember at the time I was watching, I was like, how did he get up there? What the heck? Like, I was watching the whole time, but obviously they're using a double.
Yeah.
Maybe they're ahead of time. Maybe they have.
Yeah, he stands up there and goes, I've seen the future.
I've transcended.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I was watching this, it literally reminded me of that concert, and I was like, oh, like it makes so much sense now.
Man, you have
like,
firsthand experience of that magic trick.
Yeah.
Just sick.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah, and so when at the time when I was watching it, I was amazed. I was like, my mind was racing, and I was like, how did he get up there that fast? But then, watching this again and putting that into context, now I'm like, oh, there's obviously a double. Like, the person up there was obviously acting like Tyler and, lip syncing, and then Tyler was like singing from behind stage or something like that, or, being planted at part, and then, they went out for that big reveal. And it was super cool, man. Like, being able to recontextualize that into my own experience, and then watching, the audience experience that with Angier.
Yeah. Your reaction reminds me of Borden's reaction in that too, where he watches it thousands of times, and I love that scene too, where he's in his workplace and he's talking to someone, but they're off screen because it's Fallon, but they don't show him because he's talking to himself. It looks like, but they don't show it because they want to keep the trick for the end. But he's explaining like, how does he do it? It's 500 feet in like 2 seconds. How does he do it? We're done. We're just done.
Yeah.
And then he goes, come on, we're not gonna mess with him anymore. We're done. And
let him do his thing.
Of course, it doesn't end up being the case, and it ends honestly to the ending, which I think is incredibly awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring it up,
Inspiring.
Yeah,
it made me just go
the whole time, the entire ending. I was like this, like the whole time, just watching everything unfold. I was like,
yes, seriously.
I got played. That's what I thought.
What's going on, man?
Seeing the ending was like, I just got played.
Yeah.
I got played so dang hard.
Dude, he sets it up perfectly too, where it's only 100 shows. He's got all blind people helping him, so they don't see what's happening.
Yep.
He's getting John involved, but he doesn't want him backstage because he doesn't want him to see all of the inhumane.
I didn't think about that.
Dead bodies. Of his previous clones.
Yeah, and we get to see the scenes of like all of the old people carrying out the water tank, but it covered.
Yep.
I didn't think about that.
We know something's bad, and I love it too because it's intercutting with John Cutter, like in a different time, a different part of the timeline, and he's talking to the judge and explaining to him the significance of the water, and and him saying, if you get this machine, or let me buy it, and I just want to destroy it, because he knows the true power of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so smart that you mentioned it now. Now that thinking about it, the blind people,
yeah,
so they don't see.
They never
That's
see.
big brain.
Yeah, it's big brain.
Yeah.
What he's able to do, it's got to be big brain to write a book so convincingly that you've been duped reading the book that's duping you.
Yeah.
It's the big brain you have to be to come up with the plot like that, and then to kill yourself and then learn or have this whole new identity of John or Caldlow or whatever.
Yeah. Lord Caldwell. Caldwell.
That
Caldwell.
blew my
Is
mind
that-
too.
Is that it?
I don't remember the name.
No, Caldlow.
Caldlow?
You're correct.
Okay.
You're correct.
But finally,
that entire ending sequence, like it's like 8 or 10 minutes of just this actual ending. There are so many twists and turns that we get, brought to us. Like we find out that, Caldlow and Angie are the same person, and that he reveals, and this is how big brain Alexia is again. Whenever we're watching, like it's announced that Borden is gonna die that night. He's gonna be hanged, and he's like, okay, well, you get to see your daughter one more time before you go. And previously, we hear about this Caldlow person, and that he wants to adopt Borden's daughter and give her a better life and all that stuff, and so that way she won't be alone and all this stuff. So we see her coming in, and then we see this guy walking up, and he's got a limp. And Alexa was all, he's limp, like immediately.
Oh, she did,
yeah,
dude?
immediately, and I was all, no. And then we see him walking up, and he's got this different facial,
He's got, like, the
facial
little-
hair and all this stuff. And
But it's
we
Hugh
see
Jackman.
Borden come to the realization that this is Angier, and he says,
That's it.
like he says, yeah, and he's all, I'm Caldlow, like that's who I am, and he's like, I watched you die, like this
This
there's
can't
no
be you.
way, I watched you die. And he's like, like essentially telling him the trick, like, I played you essentially, and now
He goes,
I
win.
now I'm gonna raise your kid, like and is essentially rubbing it in his face and saying that I won and all this stuff. And it's so heartbreaking watching Christian Bale's character just being like, that's the man that
And
says
no
that
one-
I didn't kill him, he's right there,
And no one believes
and no one
him.
is believing him, just hauling him off.
Yeah.
And then
It makes me kind of sad too, because we get this scene like in the middle of the movie when Angier is following Borden, and he's like, he says this quote where he says like, he has this life that I wanted because his wife is now dead.
yeah,
So, and then going to the scene where he's like, oh, he has this kid, I was like, oh, dude, no way.
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna take it.
Yeah.
If he can't have it, he's gonna take it.
Yeah, and the whole time Borden's saying like, this isn't, it's not a trick anymore. You're talking about my daughter's life here. And I think one of the things that kind of broke my heart the most was, Borden saying goodbye to Fallon.
Yeah,
And it's another slap in the face if you don't get it by now.
yeah,
But he's basically saying like, I'm sorry about Sarah. We didn't even talk about Sarah.
no, we didn't even talk about
There's
Sarah,
so
who I
ma-
love in this
There's
film.
so much to talk about.
But
But
nah, forget Sarah.
he's
Forget Sarah.
you don't like her?
Oh wait, not Sarah.
Rebecca Hall.
I don't
You
like,
mean Olivia?
I hate Olivia. I don't like Olivia.
Scarlett Johansson's character.
I don't like Scarlett Johansson's character.
Rebecca Hall's character. Sarah,
Rebecca Hall's
kills
character is
it.
good.
I love her.
My
in this
bad.
film.
She's an anchor point,
yeah.
honestly.
I really enjoyed her in this film. Like I didn't expect to as much as I did, and I really loved her performance.
She
in
seemed
this.
so genuine, didn't she? Where
Yes,
she like her
dude.
lip is quivering.
When she's
and
like, I don't know who you are, like, and is talking about like, I don't know whether you mean it anymore or not. You tell me you love me, I don't know when you mean it on certain days.
yeah,
It's
You mean it today,
it's
and that's what
heartbreaking.
scares me.
It's heartbreaking.
yeah, it
And
definitely
and to
is.
see her demise too eventually is just breaks my heart.
Yeah,
But we'll talk about
That's a
you know,
bro.
that
those are
inter-
bro moments.
yeah, that interaction between Fallon and Borden.
yeah,
And we see Borden essentially being like, all right, it's time, you're gonna be hanged soon.
Mhm.
And the last person he talks to is Fallon, and this is the first time we get to see an up close shot on Fallon. And I don't know about y'all, but I recognized immediately that is Christian Bale with some makeup on.
I didn't,
dude. I
didn't.
I said that's chubby Christian Bale with some makeup
I did not
I
think
was-
it was him.
Because I had the idea. I was like, okay, he has to have a double or twin or something.
Yeah.
And when it showed us Fallon, I was like, that
You
doesn't
know-
look like
you
him.
know
What are you talking about?
You know what? My brother called it out too earlier in the movie. He goes, "You want to pay attention to him," and I didn't really.
I'm
listen
an
to him.
idiot. I just think I'm an idiot.
I didn't listen to my brother because I was like, "Why do I want to pay attention if he's just the assistant?
Yeah.
He's nothing big."
You
And
wanna-
that's what they want.
Listen, you want to know what something I thought of too, but then I was wrong in my thinking? There was a point where I recognized Christian Bale's mole right here.
Oh.
And it was gone.
And I thought
Oh, you thought you saw it on
an
Fallon.
I thought I thought I saw it on Fallon.
Oh.
But then this is another thing too. I had recognized it in one shot, and then in another shot, I thought it was gone. And so I was like,
Your big brain.
I remember seeing it and then being like, has that been there the whole time? Like, I swear there have been other shots where that mole was not visible.
Uh-huh.
And
My facial recognition skills suck.
Yeah.
Because I saw him and I was like, that doesn't look like
That
Christian
doesn't
Bale at
look
all.
like him. No, I didn't think it was.
I could tell it was Christian Bale by his eyes. And then
Oh.
like he had some puffier cheeks and had that beard and everything, but I was like, that's Christian Bale with some makeup.
Oh.
And I immediately was like, that's a twin or that's a clone.
So that, okay. Because I was questioning, because this is my second time watching it. I had already known everything. I was wondering when we're supposed to know that he's a twin, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, he played it.
it's at that moment, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And so, we get revealed that Fallon and Borden are the same person, or they are clones of one another. And then it goes into this like beautifully corroborated and solidified sequence where we see every detail like worked out and fleshed out beautifully, where we see, because Borden got his 2 fingers cut off, they had to freaking cut off Fallon's fingers and make it seem like they're both the same person equally at the same time.
And then you get to the scene when he's with Sarah, or when Fallon's with Sarah.
Yeah, and they're yelling at one another, and at the time, previously we said like, he's saying all this stuff to Fallon. He's like, I'm sorry about Sarah, I'm sorry about Olivia, tell this person I love them, and all this stuff. I'm sorry about everything. And like that's when we recognize that the person that is going to jail or that is going to be hanged truly is the one that loved Olivia, and Fallon truly did love Sarah. But the whole time we were thinking that the person that is locked up was
One person.
was Borden that loved Sarah.
Just being, well, he's kind of being.
He was being a womanizer.
Yeah,
he was cheating.
Oh, I played myself so bad because one of my moments, I literally put, bro, Alfred is literally cheating on Sarah.
Yeah,
But he's not.
Yeah, but he's not. That's the thing. Like,
no,
But
and then and she goes, since when did you become Freddy? Oh,
yeah, and that's the thing is like, he never really was like.
I hate this.
And this is another thing too. You can tell like when, or there's certain shots where you can sort of tell when Borden is not Borden. Like there's a shot whenever they come out within the transported man, and they're both wearing that mustache and the goatee, and he kisses Olivia's hand. Like when he kisses Olivia's hand, he gives her this look, like a, I like you kind of look. And I remember whenever I saw that, at first I was like, they're having like this like weird relationship, or like they're gonna cheat.
yeah.
And then we what I thought, we got that thought solidified whenever we see them in bed with one another and they're kissing and stuff. I was like, dude, he's cheating on Sarah. Like what the heck? Why?
Well, that's why I think I hated Sarah. Or not Sarah.
Olivia.
I'm sorry. I like you, Sarah. I think, and that's why I think I hated Olivia, because she was with Algier, and then she was with Borden.
that whole plot line was
Yeah.
crazy too. Of her being the
backstabbing everyone.
being love interest to Angier, and then Angier sending her off to go and steal his secrets, and then her being like, I pretty much hate this fool because he can't see the success we have right underneath his nose.
Yeah.
And I hate him for it. So I'm here.
So I'm here. I'm going to tell you everything he wants me to do, and I'm going to be a better assistant to you.
Yeah, and she helps him not only to be a better magician, but a better performer.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why he gets success, is because now he's able to carry himself just like Angier is.
He's able to fool the crowd with a pretty face.
And she's the one who planted the journal, the fake journal.
Yeah.
Which...
Yeah, dude, it's such a bro moment, too, whenever he's like, Angier, you're probably at the end of this
when
by
he's
now.
reading it, he's like,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, and he's like, I know that, Olivia planted this exactly where I wanted it.
Yeah.
I know I wanted you to read this and all this stuff. I was like,
And
dude,
he
he's
says-
5 steps ahead.
He says something like, she proves her love to you by proving her love to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, it was fake the whole time.
Yeah.
Which blew my mind, because he thinks at the moment that everything is, like, Tesla means nothing. He can't build a machine.
Yeah.
So everything is, all he's worked for
Yeah.
is just gone.
Yeah. And one thing I love too about this whole ending sequence is right when we think all the twists are done,
I know.
they keep coming.
They keep coming.
Like we get to this whole sequence where we're like, okay, these people were the same person and all this stuff, and then we realize like, okay, we got to talk about whenever Borden actually dies or whenever Fallon dies.
Oh, when he gets hung.
Any last
And
words?
so he gets hung, and I give me goosebumps whenever he gets hung and he says any last words, and he says abracadabra, and then gets hung. Immediately, I'm like, oh, still I'm thinking like, is that Borden or
No,
was that Fallon?
It's still, I'm still thinking it was one person because I don't think it showed us yet.
Well, I had drawn the connection between the two, seeing Fallon's face.
So you were ahead. But
So I
immediately I was
Ahead
like,
of the game.
I was like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, and I still had the hesitation where I was like, well, which person was that exactly? Was that Fallon or Borden?
Mm.
And
they're
then
both the same.
How do you have a conversation with your brother and be like, hey, we're twins, but I'm gonna have you die?
Oh, and that's the scene we get of him saying like, you live your own life for the both of us now.
Yeah.
Like, you're on your own now
Yeah.
because I'm gonna like. He kind of accepts it, and that's when he passes him the ball.
Yeah.
And you of course know like, this is it. Like,
Yeah. And
the whole facade is gone.
Yeah, and then it gets down to the very end whenever Borden confronts Caldlow, and they're
In this,
they're
like,
putting
basement?
they're in the basement of the theater. They're putting away the transfiguration machine and all that stuff, and I forget exactly how he makes his entrance. I think he throws that ball,
Yeah.
He does.
and Angier turns around and sees it and then like throws it back or something, right? Or no, yeah, he gets shot, and we're like, well, who did he get shot from? We don't know. And then that ball rolls back, and we see the hand pick it up with the two fingers, and I immediately was like, oh, dude, like.
And that's when I realized.
I was like, dude, like it was actually Fallon that died,
Yeah.
and Borden was the one enacting revenge, and he got the last laugh. And then that's when he reveals his whole plot, and he's like, essentially like, you don't win,
You
I
got
do.
got. Yeah.
Like
you got God.
Yeah, like,
that was a good one.
for real.
What was that?
He went to dap you up.
I went to dab you up and I just did it myself. It's
Oh,
all right.
you're good.
but and it's essentially this whole like big reveal. Like we thought all these twists and turns were done, but those twists and turns do not end until the credits roll.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, because I lost it when Borden walks in to get his daughter.
mm-hmm.
And immediately I said, wait, this is the beginning of the movie.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's literally
the
like,
beginning.
yeah,
It's cyclical.
Cutter is showing his daughter a trick.
Yeah.
At the very beginning.
And that's when I was like, wait, was Cutter in it too, though?
He was.
Mhm.
He definitely was at the very end.
Yeah.
So that's
And
what I wanted to talk
there's
about.
a part whenever Cutter's leaving and he walks by Fallon, or at
He
least
wa-
who he thinks
yeah,
by
and
Fallon,
he,
and he
like-
goes, tips his hat to him, like he's like, yeah, he's in there.
Dang,
Go take care of business.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it.
Yeah, he definitely, because Cutter is not for the whole idea of what he committed, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest kind of like mind-blowing scenes is when he goes, Borden is explaining like, oh, I've had to sacrifice all my life to be two people, but one person, and he's like, you don't know anything about sacrifice, and Angier's down there, he's laughing, he's like, do you even know who you are right now? Just look around. Like, look around, and you'll know that I know what sacrifice is.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't look around at that
No.
moment,
No.
but he ends up passing out and falling, and and I love it too because it's Michael Caine narrating the idea.
It's the idea of the trick,
Yeah,
and it's re-wrapping up that first bit of dialogue
Yeah.
in the beginning of the film.
yes,
And he's like, the trick comes up with 3 pots, and it's like and he explains the 3 parts again.
pledge, the turn, and prestige, and it's that idea of the audience not wanting to know the trick.
Yeah.
Right.
They're wanting to be fooled.
Yeah, they're wanting to be fooled. If you know it, it kind of you lose its luster. Kind of, right?
Exactly.
And I love it too because he ends the whole thing is like he's like, you don't want to be fooled, or I forget exactly how it ends, but it's so powerful.
He says you don't want to know the truth, you want to be fooled.
Yes, but like he leaves and the camera is focused on
all of these
all
all of these cases full of water still.
full of water, and Angier
And
Angier's
bodies,
duplicates.
yeah, his clones in them. So like, and when I saw that, I had come to the realization immediately that like he had been killing his clones every night. Like when they go into the transfiguration machine, and this is interesting when they show these certain shots too. Like they show shots of the floor opening and closing.
Yes.
So we recognize now that someone falls in that water, and he's killing them every time they go in that water, and is taking the glory up.
Well, he's killing himself.
Essentially,
But yeah,
he's
like
killing
essentially
himself.
he is.
He's
but-
getting the best of both worlds, though, because he gets
He's
to be
killing-
the one that
he-
introduces it,
exactly,
and he gets to be the one that gets the praise at the end when he comes out on the balcony.
exactly.
But he has to kill his person to do it.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I'm trying to look for the quote that. Yeah, it's let's see.
The one that John Cutter says at the very end. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just, the way that they frame it is just so powerful. And honestly, when I had seen it the second time, I was like, and I was getting goosebumps.
We got to
dude.
talk about what he says to Robert to Angier before Borden comes in.
Is
And
this the
he's-
scene
and he
where
says-
he brings
he
up
says-
the...
He brings up the thing that he brought up at the funeral.
I love this.
And he says, "Take a minute to consider your achievement. I once told you about a sailor who drowned." And Angier says, "Yes." He said it was like going home. And Cutter said, "I lied. He said it was agony." And then walks out on that. Like, it was like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, dang, dude. Like, that's, what a thing to leave a person on. And then for them to die after that.
Mm-hmm.
The last lines of the film are Cutter saying, "Every magic trick consists of 3 parts, or acts. The first part is called the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary. The second act is called the turn. The magician takes the ordinary something and makes it into something extraordinary. But you wouldn't clap yet, because making something disappear isn't enough. You have to bring it back. Now you're looking for the secret, but you won't find it because, of course, you're not really looking. You don't really want it to work out. You want to be fooled."
Mm.
And
then
it
it ends. And dude, oh man, I'm getting goosebumps again just reading
And that's
those
when
lines.
that's
man.
when you realize we got fooled, or I got fooled.
you got played the entire movie, and then like after he says that, it pans over. You see all these cases and all of Angier's clones' bodies, and then it cuts to black and rolls credits. So the whole time afterwards, like as soon as credits rolled, I immediately was like, "Oh!" Like that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
And I immediately was like, man. So all of this was fake, and all of this when Sarah
got
was saying, yeah, when Sarah was saying, sometimes whenever you tell me you love me, I don't know if you mean it. I can tell you don't mean it some days. Like that adds a whole new context to the level.
Yeah.
Like when I first heard that, I thought it was because he loved his job so much.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's because, Borden and Fallon were straight up taking turns with one another, and like she could tell whenever she was truly being loved and when she
she's
couldn't.
not.
And like the whole time after, I was just like, man, that is a masterpiece in writing and a masterpiece in direction, and being able to pull something off like that, and being that, Christopher Nolan essentially being that magician, and going through the acts of a trick and going through the pledge, the turn, and the prestige, and fooling us the whole time is just. We're left like the audience at the end of a magic trick.
Yeah,
like the whole time, the only thing you could do at the end
it's
is just stand up and start clapping.
Seriously, no, that's
Like,
exactly what I felt, dude. I was like,
yeah.
oh, that was...
like that's the only thing you could do in that.
We got to applaud Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, like it's a master class in everything.
Yeah.
And when I left the movie, I was like, I don't know how this is. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I walked out and I was like, trying to think about something that didn't work for me, and the whole time I was like, no, like every question I had got answered. Like there's nothing that I think doesn't work. Like I don't know how you can give this movie any less praise than that.
I had described it as being one of the most satisfying endings of all time.
Yeah, like
Honestly.
and it's true. I think I would agree with that statement, because it's when you recognize, dude, I can sit here and gush about
There's-
it. Like,
yeah,
there's so much I want to say that I can't just say because I keep thinking about the ending now, and I'm like, dude, it's so good.
It's so good. And
But-
the only way you could truly experience it is if you watch it.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta go through all of the motions. You gotta see all the cogs turning separately, and then once they come together to form this perfectly cogged machine, dude.
Yeah.
Perfectly oiled machine at the very end. I'm like, it all just makes so much more sense. And,
Yeah.
and that well, the word for it, I think for sure, is recontextualized.
Yeah.
Every single scene in this is so different now that you
Mhm.
have information that you got at the end,
Exactly.
which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the whole movie.
That's the
Yeah.
movie.
All right. Well, let's get into best quotes.
Yeah, we kind of dove into a bunch of categories here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, let's break it down a little bit here. One of my favorite quotes is Borden's, or what we assume Borden's, is last words with abracadabra.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the only one I wrote down.
Okay. You got any, Nick?
I have one that John Cutter says, and I alluded to it earlier. What he says, it's when he's gonna do that dove trick, and he ends up not having to kill the dove, but he asks him, "Wait, but the dove's still alive." He goes, "Yeah, you know, I wanted to see if you're able to do it." He goes, "You've got to get your hands dirty if you want to achieve the impossible."
Mm.
And I think that just alludes to the dirtiness.
Yeah, that alludes to the entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an entire foreshadowing event right there.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. All right, I've got a couple here. They're all from Borden. And Borden, I mean, he says throughout the entire film to people in the audience, are you watching closely? Are
He
you paying
does.
attention? And like when it came to my mind that they were Christopher Nolan is straight up slapping me in the face
Mhm.
and being like, "Hey, pay attention." Like I was just like I really got like the whole time. Like he was literally in my face being like, "Are you watching this? Are you
Yeah.
paying attention? Pay close attention. You'll figure out what's going to happen or you'll catch on."
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just so
I
interesting.
was getting tossed around.
Yeah, it's perfect. I love it. Another one from Borden says, and this is whenever he shows that kid, Sarah's nephew, the coin trick, and he shows him that it's double-sided. And then after that he says, never show anyone. They'll beg you and they'll flatter you for the secret, but as soon as you give it up, you'll be nothing to them.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really good quote. I loved that one. And the last one, of course, is an exchange between Alfred or Borden and Sarah. And Borden says, "I love you," to which Sarah replies, "You mean it today?" And Borden says, "Of course." And then Sarah says, "It just makes it so much harder when you don't." Yeah.
That kind of drives her
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
There's a
rough.
scene too where it's one of my favorite quotes. I don't have it. I'm gonna butcher it, but I want to bring it up. It's because it's Andrew reading Borden's journal, and he's writing about it, and he's saying like, I had thought he had the life that I wanted, but what I realized is he didn't. He was extremely devoted to his work, and it's driving his wife insane. And he describes it as like his mind being extremely divided. And I thought, well, it's because it is. It's because
Yeah.
he's two people, not
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
But I like that quote a lot.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into some bro moments. I've already talked about one of mine where we find out that Homeboy's actually killing those birds.
Yeah, that was my
True.
one.
Yeah.
Mine was actually sneaking into Sarah's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is pretty wild, and then it's also kind of charming in the
Dude.
in the fact that, like, you know, she's like, I don't think I want you to come in.
Well,
And
she
he's
said
like,
like
okay.
the landlord can't.
He's like, you think that'll hold me back?
Yeah. And then, you know, he's like, okay, all right, well, I'll see you around then. I'll see you later.
And then he
And, you know,
goes,
she closes the door and she's all, you want
Sugar.
milk or sugar? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, it catches her off guard, and obviously.
and
you
she
know,
starts laughing.
is the
and I think
catalyst.
that's what like sparks the relationship, like you said. It's the catalyst.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. One of the bro moments I had was getting Mr. Fallon getting kidnapped. I thought that was
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty genius because you know, we'd seen Angier kind of stalking them and
Mhm.
following them and doing dirty, but now, you know, he knows that he's there. Borden knows that he's there, and he goes, "You know what? I'm going to walk tonight. Let him come." And Fallon is just standing in the back, and he knows, but he's loading his weapon. He's
I
ready.
was so confused why he had a gun too.
He was ready to end his life. He was ready
Yeah.
to kill Angier. And Angier, being the big brain he is, he's like, okay, it looks like he's cutting in the alleyway to get ahead of Borden.
Mhm.
But what he's truly doing is he's leading Fallon
Yeah.
to this trap to make him do it. I I thought it
he
was a
obviously
big.
had to skip the step.
He skipped the step. He fell into this coffin. They immediately start hammering
nailing it.
and then he shoots.
And they bury him alive.
I
And he
love
goes-
that he says,
Michael Caine. He's like, that just saves me from drilling you a bullet or an air hole. This is one of my biggest bro moments. And him being buried alive
yeah.
yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah.
We talked about almost all of them. The last one that I have, probably going to be the biggest one of all for me, was Sarah committing suicide.
Mm.
Yeah. That's.
Committing unalive.
Yeah.
Unaliving herself.
Yeah.
Unaliving herself.
Yeah, that definitely
In
heartbreaking.
Fortnite.
Dude, and it lingers on it.
Yeah.
Stop.
No, it does.
It reminds me of the scene in Stars Born.
It reminded me of Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do that often, huh?
Yeah.
Where something horrific like that happens
They
and then
make
they
you
just
sit with it.
and they just make you sit. It's because it's such a big thing.
Yeah, they want you to feel the weight of it.
Yeah.
And it's, I think about the scene immediately after because I think it's Fallon now with Olivia. She goes, well, talk about her. Like,
I know. This is another moment too where he goes, the truth is I didn't really love her.
I love you.
Yeah, dude.
I was like, dude, you're cold.
Yeah, when I and that's such a bro moment.
Honestly,
like
how
thinking
does she
about,
know there's not two of them, though? Because she
Yeah.
had to be in the same room as multiple times.
Well, she explains. She says, "I see the it's a double. I see the wigs all the time. I see all the makeup. It has to be a double."
Mm.
But Borden says the real trick of everything was when they swapped,
Yeah.
and they do that little scene. But
Yeah.
that's the trick
Mm-hmm.
of not letting anybody see that there's two of them.
Yeah.
But yes, that was a big moment for me.
Crazy. One bro moment I have that I don't believe we have talked about is when we find out that Angier was setting Borden up for his death.
Yeah,
Mm.
when he's
Yeah.
reading the notebook and he goes, "Yes, Borden, that's right."
Yeah.
And he was reading it and he was like, "I'm
Yeah.
getting duped, but
Yeah.
I duped him."
Yeah. And that was
doopy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
serious.
and that was one where I was
Dupe
just kind of
square.
like, dude, they're big braining each other like all over the place.
Yeah.
And I want to see where this is going to end. It was something that was wild. But yeah, all the other bromans I haven't.
Yeah,
believe
we
we've
hit 'em
talked
all.
about.
Me too.
Okay. All right, let's talk about some facts then.
Yeah, so I'll start off with the budget. It took $40 million to make this movie. Opening weekend, it made $14.8 million, which is not bad. Gross in U.S. and Canada was $53 million, and then gross for worldwide is $109.6 million.
Wow.
So it
Awesome.
definitely made its money worth, and it's not a flop.
That's what I'm
Nice.
talking about.
Like that. All right, so the first one I got here, which is pretty interesting. So this movie we've said is already based off of a book.
I actually don't think I brought that up.
Okay.
It's adapted from a book by
Yeah.
the same name.
Yeah, so it's like Nick said, adapted from a book from the same name, written by the author's name is Christopher Priest, and so originally this movie was brought up to be directed by Sam Mendes.
Hmm.
If
Which
you guys
is-
didn't know Sam Mendes is, he did American Beauty. He's also done 1917.
Okay.
He's done a couple of other pretty big ones. I think another one is Revolutionary Road.
Hmm.
With Leonardo DiCaprio and
Sam Mendes.
I'm totally blanking on homegirl's name from Titanic. They were literally in Titanic together.
I have no idea.
Kate Winslet.
Oh, yeah.
Kate Winslet. So he's done a lot of stuff. But Sam Mendes wanted to do this movie as a follow-up to American Beauty, which came out in '99. So, and he'd done so. He wanted to do so because American Beauty had gotten nominated for 7 Oscars. So another offer had came from New Market Films on behalf of writer, producer, and director Christopher Nolan, of whom author Christopher Priest had never heard of. Because of this, Priest was prepared to close the deal with Mendes when a VHS copy of Nolan's The Following was delivered to his house by motorcycle. At the time that it was delivered, Memento was was in post-production, so it was being edited and was going to be being distributed soon. Because of this, Priest was impressed by Christopher Nolan's The Following and chose Nolan to direct it because he wanted to support a filmmaker rather than an already established one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty
So
cool.
so in the entire span of that, this was around 2000. From then up until 2006, this movie had been being worked on or was in the works with Christopher Nolan and Christopher Priest.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The fact I have is a lighter one than that. I just thought it was interesting of how versatile Hugh Jackman is as an actor. 2006, this came out. He was in 3 other movies this year. This one was being the first one, but the other 2 were flushed away.
Flushed away.
Flushed away, which is the rat.
The rat
getting
flushed down.
Oh, it's
And
like
you
a
see that
chicken
little-
run.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah,
that same
it's the
animation
same
style.
animation,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then in X-Men: The Last Stand.
Wow, yeah, that's
Dang.
range right there.
Range,
That's
I'm
a
telling
big
you.
range.
That's why I love this dude.
One thing that I thought was actually pretty cool was, so when Alfred is in prison, his inmate.
Got it.
Indy be ning ning.
Magician, yeah, I get you.
Inmate number is D23. The movie was released by Touchstone Pictures, a Disney subsidiary. D23 is the official fan club, which refers to 1923, the year that Walt Disney opened the studio.
Wow.
Mm.
So
Interesting.
I thought that was really cool.
Little callback.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
I have one that I think's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Alfred Borden's infant, that is in the movie,
Yeah,
was actually played by Christopher Nolan's child.
Seriously?
Yeah, that was one of Christopher Nolan's children, and he used them in the film as Borden's babies.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Did he pay him?
I don't know.
I bet
Probably-
they better.
Probably not.
Get a new bottle and all that stuff. It'd be funny.
So you get paid for sleeping in my house. Dude. I feed you.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Take care of you.
I have a fact. We didn't really talk about the differences between the novel and the movie.
Mm.
There's actually a lot of differences in the novel, and one of them I have that I thought was really, really interesting was, so in the novel, the machine works a little bit differently than in the film. It doesn't copy a person exactly as they are, memories and personality intact. Instead, it does in fact transport the essence of a person into a newly created body, leaving behind a seemingly dead husk. These dead husks are what Angier refers to as his prestige material in the novel. So it's a little different, and it kind of is less morally gray, honestly.
Yeah,
they're
because
just,
it's literally like
it's just no like it's just
it's a shell of a person.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a body. There's no soul. There's
Yeah.
nothing significant about it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they chose it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really interesting.
The last one that I got is, so the editing includes 146 jump cuts,
Yeah.
in which the next shot flashes either back and forth to another time period of the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
The average of almost each jump cut is 1 minute in the movie.
Like every minute.
Every
there's a
minute
jump
there's
cut.
going to be a jump cut, at least. Almost every minute.
It feels like that. It does.
Yeah,
it's
it
kinda
does.
it's
It goes quick.
constantly going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another fact I have here in reference to the book and some of the changes that were made. In the novel, the Borden twin or the Borden clone who sneaks under the stage is not framed by Angier and does in fact wreck his transported man trick. His interference creates 2 Angiers, one who is sickly at having half had his essence taken out of him, and the other a wraith-like being who can only be somewhat solid through intense concentration.
What
Lord,
the heck?
Yeah.
It's not even like a real person. It's like
Yeah, it's like
ghostly.
Yeah, exactly.
That is weird.
I had read another fact too. I don't have it written down, but it was like the scene where the scene where his wife dies
Mhm.
is not the same in the book. It's like
Mm-mm.
they're doing a seance and
Yeah, and
Borden messes it up
Mhm.
and like ends up pushing her and her. That's how.
yeah,
and
he injures her
he
in the
in-
process.
he
He
in-
doesn't kill her.
I even read or I heard too that she was pregnant and she had miscarried because of it.
Mm.
So it even is. It's way different than
Yeah.
the movie, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. My last fact here is about my guy, David Bowie. Rest in peace. And he initially declined the offer of Nikola Tesla when it was offered to him. Christopher Nolan ended up flying out to him personally to tell him that he was the only one that he had imagined for the role and that his larger-than-life persona would make the idea of Tesla building a cloning device believable.
Mm.
Upon hearing this, David Bowie had changed his mind and decided to take the role after that.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good to know that he tried. He
Yeah.
tried his best to get us to believe the cloning.
Yeah. Which, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then lastly, this movie was nominated for 2 Oscars.
I was wondering, did it win anything?
No. It was nominated for some pretty lame.
one.
Like,
Tell
no,
me it was
not-
like best
not-
adaptation.
I'll read you the noms right now.
I have
it
it
was
right here.
it was nominated for best achievement in cinematography and then best achievement in art direction.
But you don't think best achievement in
Cinematography?
I can't talk today. Cinematography is not good.
It is, but you know, when with a movie like this not being nominated for best writing or adapted screenplay or direction,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
It's funny that it got best art direction too, because I had read a lot of the props were not correctly placed in their time period, and it was a big issue for a lot of people of like them noticing that stuff was out of place or in the wrong decade or it shouldn't have been invented at the time. So interesting to hear it got nominated for that. For art. Well, I guess art direction is a little different, but
Yeah.
still interesting. And it didn't
Yeah.
win any. You said
Nope.
None?
And those were the only two it got nominated for.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. All right. What didn't work for y'all?
Yeah,
There's nothing for me.
Nothing.
man.
Nothing.
Okay, first off, let's start with the lighter one. The whole Thomas Edison versus Nikola Tesla thing.
Actually, yeah. What the heck was Thomas Edison in it for?
I think it's just to ground us more in the time period.
Yeah. Well, and also to act as an opposition to Nikola Tesla.
It was a little weak for me. I didn't really
I didn't see a
care
point
much.
in it.
Yeah, I didn't really care much for it.
But that's the only thing I can think of now that you bring that up. But
Well, isn't Edison the reason?
You
And
have the light
Edison's
bulb?
henchmen. No, Edison's henchmen are like the reason that that Tesla ends up burning all of his stuff.
Yeah. Well, fact, you know that scene where they get introduced to that machine and everyone is like, "Oh, shut it down! It's so dangerous!" Oh,
Yeah,
the very first. So there's a guy in there screaming, like he's
it's unsafe.
Yeah, it's unsafe. It's
that
a
a
little
henchman?
too. It's the same guy that we get to see show up at the hotel as one of Thomas
Oh.
Edison's men. So they're being planted to do that whole smear of Nikola Tesla.
Okay, I see.
Mm.
So I don't know. To me, it was a little weak, only because they don't really touch a lot on it. It's just like it kind of just felt that like they were just trying to ground us deeper into the whole late '80s,
Okay.
which was one thing that I didn't really care for at all.
Yeah.
Other thing I had a hard time agreeing with was Angier's ending speech motivation, where he's like, "Oh, you still don't get it? You know, you look out in the crowd and you see that their lives are changed, and you get to see them." Like he's like that seeing or that emotion that they share is rare, and you get to show them something the world couldn't, and something like that. And he was kind of boiling his motivation for all that he's done to the fact of like, "Oh, I'm doing it for the audience. You don't know this by now?" Like, I kind of liked it more, believing his emotion was, "I'm trying to get revenge for my dead wife."
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Maybe he's saying that to the effect to like try to get Borden to feel bad. Like maybe he's trying to, you know, make him see that like, oh man, he's really doing this for the love of it, rather than doing it for his own selfish purposes.
I could see that. I could see that making sense. Where he's kind of winning at the end.
Yeah.
Never ends with this dude.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I had.
Okay.
Everything else I think works absolutely perfectly for me.
Yeah, I didn't have anything that didn't work in this film. When I had left it, I immediately was like, there was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Like I loved every bit of it. Like there was nothing that didn't work here. So I don't have anything. I didn't write anything down.
Okay. You too?
No, I like this movie a lot.
Okay.
All right. Let's get into what did work then. I want to say immediately, I love the way that the story is told through both characters' notebooks.
I definitely agree with that.
I really like the way that they decided to drive the narrative through this like intimate thing, right? Like it feels like we get a peek inside as to like who these people are as actual people because it's through their notebooks, through their private, you know, information. And I really enjoyed that aspect of the narrative that way.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I really enjoyed that whole thing, and it brings the whole. I just like the story. I really enjoyed the story. I loved how complex it was, how complicated it was, but how how much confidence Christopher Nolan had in knowing that we would understand it with the way that he shot it. Didn't have to explain much of anything at all. He just had to show us it in the vision he saw, and it was perfectly understandable, and it left me thinking when I had walked away from it in a way that few other movies do, honestly. I think because of the story being told so perfectly, I think it just worked so well.
Yeah, I'll back that up too in the effect that I think that this movie has masterful writing and direction.
Yeah.
I think that this is something that only a person like Christopher Nolan could do. I think it would have been really interesting to see Sam Mendes do something like this, but I don't think it would have been pulled off as well. So that's something else that did really work for me.
One thing that I really liked about this movie is I want to rewatch it again.
Yeah, I'll echo you too, Abe, in the fact that I not only want to watch it again, I feel like this is
Needs.
Yeah, like it beckons for a rewatch.
And the reason why is because now that I know what's happening, I want to know if I can spot them. So like I want to give it like a month or two, and like I'm gonna watch some other things, and then come back to it and be like, oh shoot, this is this.
Yeah.
And I think this movie warrants that.
Yeah.
Because it makes you want to see it.
Yeah, I feel like it would be really interesting to go back and watch specifically Christian Bale, and his subtle acting that he does as Fallon and as Borden.
Yes,
I feel like there are some differences between the two. It's just very, very.
You just have to catch it.
Yeah, very slight.
Yeah,
which is honestly a testament to the amazing acting in this film, which is something else that did really work for me.
I was going to bring that up too.
I really loved Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman's performance in this. And I've already said this, but I also really did love Rebecca Hall's performance as Sarah.
She was incredible.
Yeah, she was, tragic, completely heart-wrenching in some moments. And, when she unfortunately committed the act that she did in the end, it was something that I was just kind of like, man, like she was stuck in this whole, loop. Like she felt like her whole life was a sham. Left with her feeling. She was left with the feeling of her life being a lie, and that's something that is so tragic to me. And she did a really good job of selling it and not making it corny.
Not at
it's
all.
really easy, I think, to have a role like that and to overplay it and overhype it to the point where, it's not believable. But I think she did I think she did a real fine job with it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, acting I think is incredible here with even Michael Caine. I usually love him.
Yeah.
He does a great
Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine. he's so iconic.
Yeah.
And yet he still fits into this role perfectly.
Yeah.
I honestly, man, like the perfect casting. Hugh Jackman, I think it was incredible as Angier. He brought that he is a performer, honestly.
Yeah.
So when he's on stage, I totally believe him.
Yeah, he brought this sort of like grandeur to the entire performance of Angier and just the entire character of Angier.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they had dressed him up in so like a lot of different ways, it kind of broke down the idea of Hugh Jackman being in this movie. You know what I mean? He blended really well into his characters that he was.
Yeah.
Angier, Caldlow or Waldo or whatever his name is. He becomes less of Hugh Jackman and more of the character he's playing, which I think is a great testament.
Yeah, I think is really remarkable too, because at the time he was really known for Wolverine.
Wolverine, right?
Like in that time zone, that era, Hugh Jackman was Wolverine.
And that's pretty much all he could. That's what it seemed like, right?
Exactly. That was, he was close to being typecast as, oh, you're Wolverine. Like that's it. That's all you're gonna be. And him doing movies like this, and then movies eventually like Prisoners and Les Miserables and The Greatest Showman and all these other films has totally solidified him as an A-list actor that has range and is not just one thing.
He was able to break out of that superhero mold.
Yeah.
Which I still think he did really great in.
No, yeah, me too.
But
we won't talk about X-Men's Origins Wolverine, but we might have to at some point.
We might have to, because that's nostalgia for me.
Yeah,
man.
it is nostalgia for me too, man. But
yeah, I want to
Hugh
recognize
Jackman go, It's one of those things I look back on it and I'm like,
God, come on.
How?
Come on.
How did it happen? You know, like it's wild.
Yeah.
But
You were about to say something that looked like AB?
No. Go ahead.
I
mean, I can continue with what did work here. Is that what you were gonna say, or
Yeah, it's just, I mean, overall, this movie was phenomenal.
yeah,
We could talk about it so much. I feel
Mhm.
like, I feel like the magic was really good. Something to say, like seeing the logistics of it, seeing it happen. Like obviously it's a movie,
yeah.
but still seeing it.
I guess you could say you love like the spectacle of it.
Yes,
Like
I guess so.
like the actually like I loved seeing the entire illusion of the transported man with the doors.
Yes,
Like I felt like an audience member, and whenever I saw it happen, I was just like, that was pretty cool.
Well, even
You
then,
know,
now
like-
I bet I could still be fooled with the dumb quarter thing.
yeah,
I could still be fooled by that.
yeah,
For some reason, I had felt that every time like a magic was happening, I kind of felt like there was like danger behind it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It just felt very visceral whenever it came to the magic in it.
Maybe because you saw how gruesome the bird trick is.
I think so. It had to do with a lot of like.
Wait, really? I was just joking about
No,
that.
and it shows like real sacrifice and real. You have to get really dirty for this magic, and they hammer it home with the bullet trick. I think.
Yeah.
And it's just all of these magic because they started with him doing the metal circles.
Yeah.
And everyone's like,
Oh, we've seen that.
Pull out
saw
your gun.
that. Pull out
And then
your gun.
immediately he pulls out the gun, and I'm like, I'm always feeling in danger when magic is happening.
Yeah.
And I think it was special, and I think it's a testament to just the restraint. I feel like that Christopher Nolan uses a lot,
Yeah.
where he restrains himself in showing a lot of the stuff that would help us to understand.
Mm.
And I think it just adds to that whole like, I figured this out. I got this.
Yeah.
Which I liked a lot.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that did work for you?
I think we hit them all.
Yeah, we talked a lot about this movie, man.
Okay. I will say before we go, love the score to this as well. Christopher Nolan, you can always count on Christopher Nolan, in my opinion, to have an amazing score in his films.
Yeah.
I don't have nothing to complain about it, but I didn't think it was all that.
I believe it's Hans Zimmer.
He
Hans Zimmer's
usually
the goat.
uses Hans Zimmer. He's the goat. The only I can't remember any of the music, but what I do remember is the Tesla noise.
Yeah. Yes.
My sound bar was going wow.
Yeah.
It was very convincing.
Yeah. And then see Hugh Jackman go.
No, I think it's the cat. The cat for me.
The cat
going.
Yeah.
All right. Who wins this movie for y'all?
Hugh Jackman.
Christian Bale.
Is that a surprise?
You're a Hugh Jackman fanboy.
Whoa, Christian Bale?
Yes.
Why?
Christian Bale for me too.
What?
I'm not the only one.
I love
Defend it. Defend yourself real quick.
Dude, because he's the last one to survive. He threw me out. Having a twin brother threw me out in the loop so much that I was not expecting that. And now seeing that at the end of the movie, that's the last thing I'm going to remember was he had a twin. And I didn't catch that. And I think that's what won it for me because he pulled the biggest trick of them all. He fooled us all. He fooled me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why he wins the movie for me.
All right.
I don't know, because it was a hard decision for me.
Yeah.
It was.
to pick, because I truly do when I'm going to think of the Prestige, I'm going to think of these two going head to head.
Yeah.
I truly did love Hugh Jackman's performance in this, and I loved Christian Bale's as well. So it was awesome seeing them have a battle of the wits. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, I'm gonna love Christian Bale's performance in it. I think a little more, and I think that's just because I'm a little bit of a Christian Bale fanboy. I immediately almost always love everything that he's in, besides that Terminator movie he was in.
Yeah. Salvation.
Yeah. But
He was freaking what's the name? What's the actual I've come to save you, John Carter or something like that.
I forget. It's
How
been so
can I
long since
forget
I've seen
that?
any of the Terminator movies. The only thing I remember about that is that leaked recording of him being a jerk to everyone on the set when he's like, "What the are you doing?
With this Cockney
Yeah,
accent.
he's all, put the light over there. Like, it's like, this is hilarious. But,
Oh my God.
yeah, I don't know. For me, Christian Bale.
Okay. You know what? I'll concede. I still think Hugh Jackman, but I get you guys' points.
He kills it, though.
Yeah.
I will say. It was close. But, yeah, all right. Well, if that's it for who wins, then what are some themes for this?
Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
There you go.
I put obsession overrules reason.
I think that kind of ties into something I wrote as well, which is what I had written was unhealthy obsession can prove to be dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think kind of coincide with one another.
Yeah.
I'd also written down nothing is as it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always be questioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Red pill. Take the no.
Getting back into the Matrix.
Ew,
But-
I hate to do it.
To the Matrix. Dude, I'm this close to going on a rant about Resurrection. I'm not doing it because you haven't seen it yet. I'm not doing
I'm
it.
not.
We'll save that for another episode.
All right. All right. Any other themes here?
No.
Nope, that's all I got.
All right. What are we rating this?
Don't look at me.
every time. I'm giving this one a 9. I actually think I want to go to a 9.5.
Okay.
This is the one time I'll admit to a 9.5. As close as perfect as it can be. Sorry.
No, you
Keep cutting you
you're
off.
fine.
Sorry.
I gave it.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I gave it an 8.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to echo Nick and say a 9 as well. Because I really enjoyed this, but I don't know if this is going to be like in my canon. You know, like when people ask me like, what are your top like favorite movies?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to be like, oh, The Prestige. You know, I don't know. To me, like that rank is held for films like Shawshank and The Shining and like all those other films for me, like where I feel like that is a solid like 10. So like, and it's weird because there's nothing that didn't work for me in this film, but I don't know if it just,
But it's not like your favorite.
yeah, it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't call
It doesn't have the 10 factor.
for that 10.
Yeah.
you know?
I definitely agree. Because I don't want to give it a 10 either. I'm not ready to give it a 10.
Yeah.
But it's very close.
It is very close. Like there's everything works here. And,
Yeah.
and you can tell that, you know, Christopher Nolan knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And he would go on to, you know, direct greater, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
Until Tenet.
yeah. Hopefully he redeems himself with Oppenheimer, man.
Oh, yeah. That I remember we talked about that.
Yeah. It's going to be coming out next year. So hopefully.
All right.
But all right, that's about the end of the episode, you guys. So if you did stick all the way to the end, we do appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you could, leave us a rate and review if you're listening to us on your podcast apps. If you're listening to us on YouTube, because we do have video now, you can leave us a like and a comment. You can even subscribe, so that way you can see all of our videos and make sure that you're staying up to date with the episodes. And even if you are subscribed, hit that bell notification as well, because that will notify you whenever the episodes come out, and that way you're first on the scene.
Yeah. YouTube upload times are just wildly different sometimes. So
Yeah. YouTube loves to give us difficulty when uploading our videos.
the bell helps out to know when exactly it's up.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna try, to get a little more consistent with the video uploads and exactly when the times will be. But
Life, man, life gets in the way sometimes. So
life gets in the way and YouTube gets in the way.
yeah, so we ask for patience, but we think we got that good.
So yeah, make sure that you're showing the love, all that, and sharing the videos, sharing the podcasts. We want to continue to grow this thing, and we have seen growth, and it's very exciting. And we appreciate you guys for everything that you are continuing to do and continuing to listen. We've been doing this for over a year, and it's crazy that we still have people coming back and listening. So again, we really do appreciate y'all for doing so. And it does help and show us that you guys really do like what we're doing whenever you're interacting with the content, and you're interacting with us on Instagram and sharing the stuff and all of that. So
For sure.
thank y'all.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
AB, you're next.
Yes.
What
it
have you
is your
got for
pick.
us?
I'm choosing an easy movie today.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I'm gonna do our first Pixar movie, and I'm choosing Up.
Okay. I've never seen Up.
That's gonna shake a lot of feathers, because this is, I think, considered one of the greater ones.
It's
One of the better ones.
It's one of my favorite movies. That's Pixar.
Okay.
And I don't know. It's just, I think it's nice to have a little break from live action, I guess you'd say,
Yeah.
Okay.
and do some animation.
Yeah, sure.
And I think this movie is just really nice. and
It's very
sweet.
wholesome.
It's very wholesome.
Mm.
So yeah, it's our first Pixar movie as well.
I feel like I've already had it kind of ruined for me. 'Cause I know that like
Yeah.
homeboy's wife died.
Well, even still, the fact, I mean, I've watched it several times.
I
and
still
going
cry.
back to that scene, I'm just like, man, that is just sad.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, but where's this streaming?
It is on Disney Plus.
Okay.
Disney Plus.
So
All right. Well, make sure that you guys check out Up on Disney Plus and tune back in with us next week to hear our thoughts on what we got to say about that movie. So, as always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you and good night.
good night.
Good night.